Alright guys, Scrappy again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day. So far, 5 CDL teams will be eliminated from Toronto's Major 3 here today. The top 4 teams will not be among them. They got the easy run to the Saturday after winning their series yesterday for the second tournament in a row. Now that has happened for the top 4 teams. Scrappy was among them, but after joining the OpTic watch party yesterday, he had to deal with the same stuff in the chat that Pred was dealing with roughly 12 months ago. Lots of interesting reaction as a result. Very much interested your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. This, by the way, was Vikul standing up and throwing up the #1 after they won one map, of course, on ladder yesterday by Heretics. It was an impressive map to win. Any map off FaZe is an achievement, but after that, they got put to bed relatively quickly. They may find a way to win more than one map here and win a series, because they certainly play a winnable game here in the losers bracket today against Vegas Legion. If they are going to do so, surely now is probably about the time that they win a series. There's also other teams, though, that haven't won a series on land so far this year. That is true for the Los Angeles Thieves. That is true for the Boston Breach. They play each other today. So, yeah, we shall see whether that, one of those has to come to an end, right? And it's going to be one of those two teams. You may well guess who it's going to be. But we'll see later today what comes true and what certainly doesn't. These were the shoes, by the way, that Drazah was wearing yesterday. I know there was some debate on whether they were good, whether they were fire, whether they weren't. So, I thought, to be honest, these are pretty sick, to be fair. And whatever people say in the replies, they might well win this event, and they were slamming the series yesterday. I guess I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts as one of the comments on what do you think the percentage chances are of each team winning this event, because assume that nobody outside of the top 4 is going to win. Subliners have a chance. It may be a small chance, 5-10%. I think like Toronto's chance is significantly higher than that, maybe 15-20%. OpTic might be in a similar ballpark. But you've got to think FaZe are like 50% plus right now, right? So, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think tomorrow's games are going to be massively telling, but today's games, of course, are very important as well. Krim is not at this event, but he will be at the Porsche North American Championship Series Challenge, whatever it's called, in COTA in about a week or so. Just thought I'd mention it because Circuit of the Americas near Austin, Texas, one of the most well-known and best racetracks in North America. Krim's going to be racing there next weekends. The Formula One's going to be there in a few months. Often some of the COD guys go to that because, of course, everyone is relatively local. Challenges also begins today. Some big storylines, of course, going on down there, because after this event, it is very plausible that there will be big roster changes in the Pro League, right? Because there's going to be 5 teams eliminated today. Then they will go and watch challenges for the rest of the weekend and see who wins. Big challenges event here. Obviously, pretty much everyone's playing in it. And there is a break after this event by, 1.5 weeks or whatever it is, where there is a roster change potential period. Because if you're terrible and you ain't looking good to make champs, now is the time to have a look. So I think challenges is going to be pretty key this weekend. But of course, there were 4 series yesterday. There's going to be 5 series going on today. OpTic played the Ravens. It was a competitive series for sure, and I do think the Ravens can do some damage in the losers bracket this weekend. We'll see if that begins well today when they play the Los Angeles Guerrillas tonight. But when it mattered, OpTic turned up, and you see this really often with the top teams, especially historically. This is true. It will be competitive for the first rotation. Then the top team locks in, and they win the game. What looks in hindsight relatively comfortably. Sure, Ravens made some nice plays, TJ especially here in the control, and OpTic will think, okay, we need to make sure we don't lose that one, because I'm sure that OpTic, after going up 2-0 and turning up to Karachi, thought that, they were going to win this map 100% of the time. That, of course, is not what happens, but they do close it out in 4. Never worth going to a game 5, but, still I'm sure they'd be confident. If they want to win this tournament, OpTic, they're going to have to do some good damage and search and destroy, because that is possibly where FaZe are vulnerable. We've seen that online, maybe to some degree. I mean, they lost an online search and destroy to Surge the other day, and then lost one yesterday to Miami Heretics. So maybe search is where you can get at FaZe. Right now, their respawns look pretty damn impeccable. If there's one team that can beat OpTic consistently in hardpoints, it's probably going to be OpTic of all the teams. But still, FaZe's respawn just looks deadly. Rio, 6-star, whatever they play. To be fair, when they played OpTic online on 6-star hardpoint, OpTic did win that one, right? So, I guess time will tell if they match up this weekend, as they quite probably will. We'll see the bracket in a few minutes. Clayser says, yeah, put up a solid fight, which is kind of all you could do, isn't it, really, right? The way the league is currently structured, the Thursdays just haven't been that good lately, because you kind of know who's going to win, right? I mean, the teams that we expected to win have won again for the second tournament in a row. And Ravens are sitting there, well, look, we put up a solid fight. Wasn't enough, but whatever. Our tournament really starts today. And that's the feeling, I think, for many of these teams. Their tournament really starts on Friday, and then the tournament for the rest of us really kind of starts on Saturday, you know, that's kind of when we start to get the big games here. And it is kind of just a byproduct of the way the league currently is, right? Because it's so stacked to the top that those teams always win. And when you get to Saturday, Sunday of a major tournament, it's fantastic because, you know, you get all these big games between the juggernauts. But at any time up until that point, the qualifiers, which are boring because you know who's going to win generally, and even Thursday, Friday, it just ain't quite the same. Because even, you know, the losers bracket teams here that are going to play today, sure, it's going to be some interesting games to see which teams blow it up and which teams are terrible and who can win and lose on LAN. But at the same time, none of those teams are really making a run to win the event or a deep run through losers necessarily, like we've seen in years past, realistically speaking. So does it really matter? Okay, they're playing for World Championship qualification, but are any of these teams going to win it? I mean, probably not, right? So it's an interesting problem maybe the league has to deal with to some degree. I'm not exactly sure how you do. Maybe it's just a natural kind of result of what we are currently seeing. But anyway, wanted to show a couple of clips here from Kenny, especially on the trust in the search and destroy factor, which is an important piece. They got blooded a lot on that invasion search and they still won it. A map that they could well play against FaZe. You've also got to remember that the grand finals, assuming that OpTic were to make it potentially against FaZe, and that would be the favoured outcome at the moment, it will be a best of 7 with a fair few search and destroys in there. So, you know, I'm not sure that OpTic can beat FaZe over a best of 7, but if they can win the searches, then, you know, it is definitely possible, and they will need to do exactly that. Couple of clips as well to share, though, on the whole Scrappy angle we'll get into. As Kenny says, troll the control, great first match nonetheless. GG's Ravens 1-3-1, and Scrappy said a very similar thing, of course, to Surge. Yes, there were some bodies getting shot, but after the game, you know, Scrappy's keeping the trash talk to a minimum, to some degree, because, you know, there's no point talking trash too early. You talk trash when you play and beat FaZe. That generally is the way that it works. So Scrappy did go on the OpTic watch party, right, on the Scum watch party on the other side of where we are, and, you know, they have this booth, we have the one over on the other side, and talking about how the series went down against Seattle Surge. So, yeah, obviously talking a bit of trash. I mean, you can't stop the Scrappy guy from doing that, but he also mentions what was being spammed in the chat at the time, which, of course, as you can well expect, was OpTic Scrap, OpTic Scrap, OpTic Scrap.
Definitely could be a lot of nerves and unexpected things that happen in the first match. Yeah. And so the one thing I want to talk to you about was the S&D. You guys played 9 rounds, you win 6-3, won first blood. Yeah. Being down so many times in those engagements, how do you stay so cool, calm, and collected to even win in that 6-3 fashion?
I think to win like moments where you're down, you got to have a lot of trust with your teammates, especially like if I'm calm in like the first few rounds, I was kind of making plays. I'm like, yeah, I'm making plays, and my teammates trust me to like do what I can. So I feel like that's the biggest thing is trust. I think the S&D went so long because we were trying to force my streak and not really stand alive. But overall, I think we played it really good. Like I said, it's all about trust.
Damn. It's that boy Scrappy Doodle, man. Yo, good series out there. Talk to us. How'd you feel? First series, home crowd. How was it up there?
No, it was fire. Absolutely fire. I walk out, squirrel standing in my way. I had move out my way. Walk up there. I was like, holy, this is about to be so much dope. Yeah. And map 1, just an ass whooping.
Yeah, it was. You and Dill.
Yeah.
It was really you and Dill just taking turns.
Dill, here's Dill, the Lanimal right here. Shit.
Holy shit, about time,
Oh my
dude.
God.
What
Dill
was
the
wrong with
Lanimal.
him?
He couldn't
buy a kill for a month.
It is what it is, man. It's
but
online.
he's back. He was frying.
Once the mullet came out.
He's been had the mullet.
Has he been had the mullet?
He's been had the mullet.
I couldn't tell from the online angles, but he came differently.
Nah, he did. I mean, like, bro, when Dill was having a rough patch, like, bro, we were still beating teams. And, like, so, like, all we thought about was, like, once Dill, like, comes back to his form, we're going to be gross. So,
I mean, the top 3 teams right now are just
you were kind
miles.
You were kind of expecting to steamroll them.
Yeah.
I was surprised to see them win control.
Yeah, no, they just won offense.
Yeah, they caught you guys sleeping a little bit. They got, like, 3 people on. It looked like you guys, like, didn't even know they had 3 people hit street, and it was just too late at that point.
What do you think about this series? Not like this.
Yeah, that's a good round 1 out of the Ravens. They end up getting that blood.
Just ruined my vibe.
Why? What they say?
Cuz, bro.
Don't say it. Don't look at it. Don't say it. Don't look at it.
Spam, bro. Get off my dick, man. Damn.
What, they're spamming OpTic Scrap?
Yeah, they're just spamming it. Like, I can't even look over there and read an actual question.
You're checking the guy's dope, chat.
You'll never check my dope. I'm uncheckable.
So Scrappy actually addressed this on stream as well a couple of weeks ago, and people have been saying, oh, Scrap, when are you joining OpTic? Like, have you signed the contract yet? And all this type of stuff. And Scrap's like, look, no, I like my team. I want to win with this team. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Now, I think Scrappy, you know, he's not an idiot, is he? He obviously understands the situation here and the fact that, you know, he's good friends with a couple of the guys in that OpTic team. They play often together. Obviously, he's often on the Scrap watch parties and stuff like this. They have a good relationship there. Scrappy doesn't tend to trash talk OpTic generally, so I think Scrappy, would be unwise to burn any bridges with OpTic, because why would you as a pro player? But at the same time, I think he is aware of the possibility that joining that franchise over the coming years is certainly on the cards, and I feel like in the next 2 to 3 years it probably will happen. Whether it happens next year, I'm not so convinced. I actually think I would prefer for the league if Scrappy was to stay on Toronto. Big personality on a different team, and maybe Toronto build a different squad around him for next year if Toronto can't take a step back to where they want to be and beat FaZe again, which right now they can, but obviously they're not looking as good with respect to the field as they did back at Major 1. But the chat's getting into it. I also find it interesting that it's not like OpTic are bad, right? Like last year, I think everybody knew that OpTic team with Ghosty and Hook and Shotzzy and obviously Dashy was not going to last. I think, no one expected that team, even when it was formed, people didn't really expect it to be that good because it wasn't their primary option. Obviously, they wanted Pred. They couldn't get that deal done, so they had to settle for what they could do. So it's pretty evident that they were going to make that move come the off-season, which eventually they did. Whereas in this case, this OpTic team is better than last year's OpTic team. They haven't won an event, of course, this season, but they've been getting close. They've been looking good, probably FaZe's closest competitor. So the idea that people are asking for OpTic Scrap is, I wouldn't say I'm surprised, but I do think it's interesting considering, the tournament isn't even over yet. And if you are going to get Scrappy, what do you actually do to the team, right? Because one of Kenny or Dashy has to go at that point, both of which are very valuable players, I think, to the team. So it does raise questions, really. But it is similar to what happened last year when Pred was getting the same stuff. I mean, honestly, last year it was even kind of worse for Pred because there were OpTic Pred chants happening at the events, right? So, the fans were there screaming at OpTic Pred. And obviously this is before he'd actually ended up joining OpTic. But, he kind of knew it was happening. The fans kind of knew it was happening. With Scrappy, it's a different scenario entirely. But, I definitely think I can understand why it's getting to him. But I also understand why he probably isn't too mad about the attention. And the feeling that if OpTic underperform for the rest of the year and if Toronto underperform for the rest of the year, then this is definitely something that could well be on the table. These, by the way, just for OpTic, current LAN series records in CDL only. Pred actually 24 and 24, just because well, he hasn't been around since the start of the league, and also that Surge team was just pretty damn inconsistent. Dashy 55, Shotzzy 59, and Kenny actually has the highest at a 60% LAN series record, which isn't great to be fair, but got to understand that as the tournament goes on, it gets harder and harder, right? Because nowadays, you win one series in winners round 1, all of a sudden you're top 6 playing a top team, so you're not expecting your win rate to be as good on LAN as it is online, simply because of the nature of the way the tournament format is designed, and it should be that way, but you've just got to weigh up the fact that online stats are usually going to be better than LAN stats, because on average you're going to play a weaker opposition if you're a top team than when you play LAN. You play one weaker team, then you play the top teams for the rest of the tournament. Heretics, of course, play today. Let's have a look at the way the bracket goes. Also wanted to mention this in Brian's stats. I mean, this is, a skill gap game, obviously, that we currently have, but also there is very clearly, a big top 4 league. I mean, it's so evident what we have right now. It couldn't be made any more obvious by this. It's the first time ever in COD history, or at least in CDL history, that the same 4 teams have won in winners round 1 in back-to-back tournaments. That's not happened in the last several years, and it happened in this tournament where OpTic, FaZe, Ultra, and Subliners, all the 4 teams that won again in the first round of the bracket, which we have certainly not seen for quite some time, if not ever, certainly in the last several years. This is the bracket as it stands. It was clean 3-1s across the board. I was absolutely loving it. I love a 3-1, as you guys know, but that means that the situation is FaZe, Subliners, Ultra, OpTic in the second round, and I mean, look, it doesn't get any better than this come winners round 2 games on the Saturday, but today's games are as follows. So this is the top side of the losers bracket, this is the bottom side of the losers bracket. After the first 2 games end, it's going to be the winner of 1 versus the winner of 2 as the final game of the day, but this is the situation. Heretics play Legion, Thieves play Boston. Surely Thieves could win that one, but I guess we'll see if Boston Search and Destroy has gone anywhere. One of those teams is going to win a series on LAN, so there is that. Surge play Minnesota is a very interesting series to me, which I kind of will prove whether Rocker are a little bit better on LAN. I think Rocker could easily win this one, but I feel like it's got to be a game 5 just looking at the series. And then Ravens Gorillas, obviously no Assault anymore, where they've got top 6 the last 2 tourneys. Now they have Flames in. I think Ravens are going to be favoured here, but Gorillas do love getting a good top 6 finish, and that's certainly possible for whoever wins this last series. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.